Down here at South Shore 79th and Kingston. Why? To talk about this man, Victor Torsberg. Entertainer? What do we know about Victor Torsberg? Let's have a little chat.
I was born in Chicago in 1906. Saw my first magic show at a church on South Michigan Avenue in about 1914 or 15. I really got interested when a friend of mine came up with a set of tricks. From then on, I was a goner. I met George Boston early in 1920, and as he was already a full-fledged performing magician, I was in.
Word has been received here of the death on Christmas Day of Victor Torsberg, 73, husband of the late Zelda Borgelt Torsberg, Havana native. He was born July 14, 1906 in Chicago, the son of Charles and Sigrid Erickson Torsberg. Surviving are a son, Robert of Deerfield, a daughter, Miss Diane Seaman of Lindsay, Ohio.
Mr. Torsberg went to Tilden High School in Englewood. His parents lived at 1305 East 69th Street in 1950. This may have been the house young Victor grew up in. Victor and Zelda raised their children at 7310 South Jeffrey and likely lived there until Zelda's death in 1968, when Victor possibly moved to the apartment on Kingston Avenue. From 1926 to 1931, Mr. Torsberg performed as an actor with the Edith Ambler Stock Company, a traveling vaudeville group where the talent was also the crew who set up and had to tear down the show. During a stop in Havana, Illinois in 1928, he came across a young lady who worked at the local post office. 10 days later, he asked her to marry him. She convinced him to wait until September 1929. Their first child, Diane, was born in 1930. In 1935, fellow magician Werner Dornfield suggested to Vic that Jim Sherman needed an assistant for his magic and gift shop in the Palmer House Hotel. The National Magic Company began as just a counter in that small gift shop in the hotel arcade. It later moved upstairs to a larger space and had a number of demonstrators working there daily. In 1940, he and his wife got into a car wreck in Chatham. The driver was his brother-in-law, though his sister was not present. Victor and Zelda were both hurt, as were two other passengers who I am guessing were his brother-in-law's aunt and uncle. Tracking through the Torsberg family can be difficult, since Victor's brother Charles was actually Charles Jr., and Charles Jr.'s twin Sigrid was named after her mother. To make matters even more confusing, Victor's mother's maiden name was Erickson, and this coincidentally became Victor's sister's married name. To clarify, I put together this family tree. I'm going to wager that in that car wreck, they were headed to her home, which she shared with her husband. They lived only blocks away at 8029 South Champlain. About a mile east of there, his sister later owned a beauty parlor, notable from when she was later robbed for the staggering sum of $9. Back to Sigrid's twin, Charles Jr. There are many mentions of Victor working for nearly 2 decades at National Magic Company as a demonstrator. I later discovered via the 1940 census and Charles Jr.'s obituary that he also worked there doing the same. The twins passed away within 6 months of each other in 2007, both at the age of 91. In this article from 1959, he bemoans the difficulty in making a living from this industry and refers to his new job with Hazema. Despite that, he was president of Assembly Number 3 of the Society of American Magicians, president of the Wizards Club, 1943, president of Ring 43, International Brotherhood of Magicians, and president of Magic Masters, 1962. Victor Torsberg died in his sleep on Christmas morning, 1979. In a 1980 industry magazine, it noted, "It was comforting to his family and friends that he was in his son's home, rather than in the small house in which he lived alone," no doubt referring to his apartment in South Shore, the community he grew up in and lived probably all of his life. When asked in 1964, what kind of magic does Vic Torsberg like, he had this to say.
I personally prefer to work from a platform. I feel as though I am showing off when I try to do close-up work. It is a quirk, definitely, but I just do not feel comfortable trying it at a table. I also feel that it is much more of a challenge to do a show on a stage than it is to do a close-up, because there is so much more involved.
This wooden nickel has taken me on quite a journey. Journey's not over.